Welcome to the Well Off Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Almasri. I interviewed Mohit Kanyan, who is originally from India and came to Canada to complete his master's degree. While in university, he started a painting business and actually ended up making quite a bit of money by doing so. And then after graduating, he earned a job with Amazon and was able to acquire a couple of properties by doing so. After a few years, he sold some of those properties and put some of the funds into a gas station. And we kind of break down the story behind the gas station, what he's been able to do to increase the income and therefore increasing the value of the building. I talked a little bit about my family's history with gas stations as well. I have a lot of uncles, and my dad as well was in the gas station business for a while, so we were able to connect on that level. And then we talked a little bit about going into Cleveland and to some of these US markets. So I hope you guys will enjoy the content. I just want to say that I truly appreciate all your support. Some of you have been listening for years, and I hope you're getting some good value out of the content. If you do appreciate the content, as a thank you, it'd be great if you can leave us a 5-star review. That really helps get the message out there. It appears on more people's feeds when they go on podcast apps. So that would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to connect with me to discuss real estate, to think of different strategies on how you can expand your portfolio, I'm more than happy to do that. Just go to www.welloff.ca and you can book a call with me there. Enjoy the episode. All right, I'm here with Mohit Kanyan. So this is the first time we meet. I appreciate you making the drive out today so we can be in person.
Thank you.
I'd like to start off by asking about your childhood. So where did you grow up, and share with me some memories about your childhood?
So I grew up in India. There's a state called, like a province or state called Haryana. That's where like pretty much all my family grew up as well. I was the first person in our family who came overseas to study. I came here to study my master's. Before that, all my families, everyone were in India, and my sister and both of us came at the same time. My sister got married into US. My brother-in-law lives in Indianapolis at that time. And then I came here for my master's studies. So
That's interesting that you're from Haryana. So
yeah.
I live in Brampton.
Yeah.
And a lot of people there, they have a sticker on their car.
I know. It's very common.
What is that? Why is it on
and
the car?
it's just people like, it's just kind of a flex people do. Like, hey, this is like, basically India is like a big country like this, and then there's different states, and those states are like kind of small countries in itself. So everyone is kind of very proud of their state and culture because it's very different from everyone else in the India. So like people have this deep obsession about where they are from, their home state. So they kind of use it as a flex, and you'll see everyone else does it as well from India.
Is it a big province?
No, it's not a big province compared to other provinces in India. It's like a mid-size one. Like I would say population wise, it's probably 30 million-ish.
Okay, that's pretty big. That's like
and compared to Canada, yes.
But yeah, I see it all the time on the cars.
I know.
And it's like, it's kind of like a skyline of the city, right?
Yeah.
But now I understand what that means.
Yeah.
All right, so when did you come? I don't know if you mentioned that. I may have missed it, but when?
So
what year?
I came in 2016 September.
Okay, September 2016. And did you say you did your master's here? Or
no, I did my master's here. I did my undergrad back home, and then I came for my master's here. Yeah.
Where did you get your master's?
University of Windsor.
Oh, okay, cool. Did you come alone or with your family?
No, just myself.
Just by yourself?
Yeah.
All right. And what was the reason you came here when your sister went to the States?
So I wanted to go to States as well, but I then just did the numbers. The one, it was very expensive to do the master's there. And then like the stuff after master's, it's just there's no clear-cut way. Like I'll go on a work permit as I did in Canada as well. But then after work permit, there is no like clear directive. Hey, like if you want to, let's say, stay in the US for the long term, you can apply for your green card. There's just no process exist in the US, and that was the feedback I received from some of my friends who are already in US and they were planning to move to Canada themselves. They're like, hey, there's just way more structure there. Immigration system is like well reformed, so you can just like you have some certainty to your future. Like you can come to US, you're probably gonna make more money than Canada, but at the same time you just always uncertain, like, hey, where do I go from here? That was the main.
So is your goal to move to the US at some point?
Maybe not to live, but obviously I would love to spend few months in a year there. And from the business sense, I think it just kind of make more sense to do a business in US. So I would like the easiest way to put it is like I would love to earn my money in US and spend in Canada.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that makes sense.
Earn in US and spend here. Makes sense. Did you get like a PR or something through I guess your master's degree, like getting your master's degree and then staying
So,
after?
like Ontario had that rule. I don't know if it still exists, but it was at that time. So, if you do a master's degree from a university in Ontario,
Yeah.
you can directly get eligible for a PNP, which is kind of provincial PR. And then I applied for it right after my graduation. So, like the next month, I applied for the PNP. I got in and right away, and then after that, we got from. And then after that, I think it took me another 6 to 8 months to get the actual PR for the Canada PR. So you just kind of step towards it, make the process a lot more easy. I didn't have to work for a year like everyone else and then apply for it. So kind of made my path easier from that way.
Got it. Okay. And then, so after you're getting your master's degree, what happened from there? Because obviously, well, I'm not sure if you picked up a job or if you got right into investing in real estate or whatever else.
So, basically, my the thing started about the real estate while I was in school. So I got into an opportunity to run a student franchise company. At that time, it was College Pro Painting. So they had painting business. You can do some renovations here and there as well, but majority of it was focused on painting. So I applied for it, and I was just a few months into the Canada. So this just popped up on my Facebook, and then I applied to it. They reached out to me, did the interview, and then they offered me the franchise. I signed the agreement without even knowing what the business is. I was just in the flow of it. I'm like, yeah, it must be good. I can pull it off. And then they signed it. Then they explained me the business model. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of work because I was full time in school as well at that time. But luckily, so I was working at Walmart, just trying to learn this business. And then in the summer time, I would go full time in the business and then run that business. In my first year, we did almost 150 in sales. Second year we doubled those numbers almost to 250.
Are you talking about
250,000 in sales? Yeah, that's revenue.
Yeah.
And just 4 months, because that's the only time you can run a painting business. Especially we were more focused into exterior painting at that time when we got started. So I was in university, made that much of money, and I paid off all my student debts. Kind of had some money sitting in there, and then that's when during this journey I met because I was painting for a lot of investors. So I was see them what they are doing. They buy a house which is not in great shape. They had some people fix it, and then we went in there. We did some paints and stuff like that, and then now house is worth a lot more. I'm like, wow, this seems like a pretty good way to make money. And then I saw like the margins, how much they were making on those deals, and then kind of how they were looking after deals. So got some mentorship from those people just by talking to them. And then I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do as well. Maybe not the actual flip, but I was a big fan of like, hey, just fix a property, refi, and then just hold it as long as we can. I didn't want to like sell it back into the market. So that was kind of my strategy. That's my early learning while I was running the business, being in school. And then after that, it was just figuring out like how soon I can buy the property, which was I had to wait for my PR. So the moment I got my PR, I had everything in place from realtor to property that we wanted to buy or the area. And the moment I got my PR, within 1 week, we had our first property locked up and then closed in.
That's amazing. So just to go back to the painting, so 150,000 in sales in your first year while you were studying full time for your master's degree.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, master's is pretty easy in Canada, especially coming from Indian education system, which is pretty grueling. So over here we found it pretty easy. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't attend all my classes because it wasn't a mandatory. Unless it's a mandatory class, I wouldn't go into the class. And I only had to score 70 percentile to pass. So I was just like, okay, I was like always 75, 76, sometimes go into 71, but I was scoring enough. I didn't have to study a lot for it. And then for assignment, I took help of my friends. And then in turn, I'll give them employment in my business. And so that was the part of it. And then so I had 2 courses per semester, because in masters we had to do 8 courses to clear the course. So we had 2 per semester, and then I had 6 hours of classes. There was some homework here and there, but most of it was pretty straightforward, so we didn't had any issue with that. One thing it really took me a little time to adjust is in my first year is maintaining that balance between as a student, international student, I did have a lot of other commitment from because there's just no option that I can be good in my studies or I can take a break. I didn't have that option. So I had to I can run the business, but the business can be the reason that I don't study well or I don't do good in my studies, because that kind of set me backward a few years back. So that was the main driving force in there. And then actually as luck would have it, I scored better in my academics during the time when I was actively running the business. And then let's say in my last semester when the business part was done, I scored less. So it's like more things you have, your mind kind of works, that way can navigate the whole thing through. So I think it worked out well in that way, where I had like a very particular time slot that I can only do studies in these times. If I don't do it, then I'll fall behind in that. So kind of pushed me, in that direction, kept me on my toes for that timing.
Got it. So what happened then after you got your master's degree? Did you end up buying real estate or like a property, or what'd you do?
So then I like while I was doing it, I figured out like, okay, you need a full-time work as well in order to be eligible for mortgages, or you don't get the mortgages unless you go private. But in first deal, it's hard to do that way. So I'm like, okay, let's just figure out. Like we had the down payment figured out. So down payment wasn't an issue. The issue was like, how do we get approved for mortgage, and then kept getting approved more and more. So at that time, the Amazon opportunity came in where my business experience made me stand out in the interview, and I got selected as a manager in the Amazon. And then I joined that, which kind of I leveraged it to get all my mortgages one after the other. So that was the first key to this real estate. And then I got that right before I got my PR. So mortgage was lined up, the PR happened, and then I already had the pre-approval, but they were just conditional upon my getting my PR card. Moment that happened, we got in our first property, and then after a few months, we started looking into the second one, and it just kind of kept growing from there. The leverage part would be used is like at that time, as we did a lot of student rentals, so our rent was kind of high compared to what the market rent was, and that allowed us to, where bank would consider 50% of your income, and if you have more than that, that kind of covers majority of our mortgages, because we did put good 20% down payment on most of our properties. So it was easy for the bank to kind of move from one property to another, keep getting approved for more and more.
Were you leveraging the properties, like refinancing?
In my first year, I didn't do it. And then second year, that was the COVID time started. Property prices really blew up. After that, we just leveraged everything. Like all the properties, either refi, HELOC, or like one after the other.
Were you buying by yourself, or did you have partners?
Initially, I started buying myself. And then after a few properties, I started getting people involved who had certain skill set that could benefit me. Let's say I had a partner in one of the properties where this guy is very good with the handyman work. So he did pretty much the entire flip on that property. He did the basement layout. He had some people helping him out, but he did the majority of the work. So I would get the mortgage part and financing part done. Then he'll take care of day to day, and then get the make any improvements required for the property.
So were you flipping the properties, or were you keeping?
No, we just did it, and then we kept all of them. We didn't flip anything until we started selling it. It was 2021, like when market was really peaking, or like just about to peak at that time in Windsor area. That's when we started, and that's where we then came up with the idea where I was like, okay, I'm gonna move off my Amazon full-time work, and I was making good salary, like around 165-ish per year at that time, and I'm like, okay, I gotta leave it, and the only way I leave it if I have anything else which can kind of take over that business. So option was to let's just buy a big running business which can kind of produce that kind of cash flow where I can leave it and still be busy with the other works. So that's when we came across the idea of okay, let's just acquire an existing business which doesn't require maybe like day-to-day that much from us, but at the same time still can provide some good cash flow. And then that's when the gas station and all those stuff happened. That's when we really started selling some of our properties.
Okay, so when was the first one purchased? What year?
So first one was purchased in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you bought some other ones after that.
Yeah.
And when did you? So you said 2021 you started selling some of the properties you had. Is that when you bought your gas station?
To gas station. So we started the process of buying it in 2021, but by the time we started the conversation about it by the end of 2021, and then it rolled into 2022. That's when we kind of finalized the gas station that we really wanted to buy after looking at whole few of them. And then from there on, once we finalized it, by the time the closing happened, it pretty much end of last year. It took us a long time to close those.
What's the process of buying a gas station?
So one is they're not available online. Like you can go to realtor.ca or find one. Like you really have to find the the realtors who are doing a lot of commercial deals. So they would have this internal list which are not available anywhere online, especially the good ones. They are not available online. So if they don't have a list, they know enough people who owns the gas stations. They'll just call everyone, see if any of them wanna like exit out of any of the market. So that's where we kind of come across this one deal. First we started from this 2 in Kitchener. We saw there was one near Kitchener, Tavistock. We really wanted to get that, and then someone else took it like a day prior to us. They got their offer accepted, and then we kept going all the way to Woodstock, and then there is another opportunity came up in Tilsonburg. It's a small town, like I think 16,000-17,000 population, and very few gas stations in there, 3-4 of them, but they are all like big numbers producing gas station, and like convenience store numbers were doing good as well, and plus it had a added benefit of having a restaurant in there. A fast food restaurant wasn't really a eat-in place, but a takeout was huge, and they were leveraging online like DoorDash, and like those were like at that time DoorDash just came into the city, so it's pretty well established, and they had everything figured out, and like the restaurant piece was very easy to operate as well. Because one thing I was very clear on, I didn't want to get into a complicated business which requires me to do a lot of work, because then I would just buy myself another job.
Yeah.
That too, this time by paying. So that's where okay, gas station, we looked at it, how it works, and the person who was running it, how he was running it. So I really liked his style. He owned a few of them, and then he was a real estate realtor himself. So, and then I just really spent some time with him, understood how he runs the business, philosophy behind it, what's exit strategy, and like how he kind of grew it, the valuation and piece and everything. So really guided me through the entire process, and that's where it kind of got started.
Would you say that most gas stations, like privately owned ones, are owned by investors, or would you say that there is like a lot of people that own and operate it themselves? It's kind of like a family business type of thing.
I think if they are involved, if there's like more than 1 or 2 partners involved, and if someone who wants to play the game of scale, they would not run it. And there are a lot of people who would buy, let's say if you buy a gas station for $1 million, $1.5 million, there's not a lot of juice left in it if you have someone else run it for you. So those people would most probably gonna run it themselves. And then if you are an investor, or you put in, let's say, 3 million plus in the deal, then it doesn't make sense for you to work in it, because your just return is not gonna be your return is better off if you work on developing it, increasing the revenue of it, even though your cash flow might go down for the short term in that, but at the same time in long term you can increase the value of the place and flip it, and then either refi it, and then kind of grow the business that way. So that's the model I chose as well.
So how do you increase? I'm assuming well, it's got to be gas stations are based on NOI, net operating income, cap rate, just like any other commercial deal. But how do you increase the income of a gas station?
So basically what do you do is, it's the same as you said, it's cap rates, net operating income. How do you increase the net operating income? One is your employee expenses is fixed. You can move that and make sure in the process of improving your business, you don't end up increasing your labor costs. So that was one part of it. So let's say I view the way I view it as one is the gas piece. Can you offer can you keep your gas prices competitive in the city, which is that's a small city where we operate, and if a gas station has the lowest prices, everyone will know that this gas station has the lowest gas prices in the city. And then that was number one driver in it. So luckily for us is the previous owner, while exiting, he redid his contract with the gas company, where he went into instead of him buying and selling the gas, he went into where he just became a third party in the gas selling business, where the gas is owned by the company, but we just operate it. So we just had fixed commissions now. So kind of make that process transparent. Plus the most amount of leverage it gave us is now we had the contract with the company stated that no matter who, whichever gas station has the lowest price in the city, our gas will be matched with that, and they monitor those gas prices because they owned some corporate store in the same city, and that was their selling gig as well. They would sell at the cheapest price. So they said okay, so that's a gas price, we had the cheapest one, plus our commissions are fixed now, so we don't have to worry about ordering at what time, and you're kind of worry about the gas prices in the market. So that kind of sorted out that gas part, and which gives us a lot of leverage. We brought in a lot of new customers, because once they see you are the lowest gas price, which is pretty much all the time, and then you kind of more and more people will start drifting towards you. Now they are already buying in there. People will go inside the store as well, and they'll buy some stuff from the store. Now if they are already inside the store buying something from you, can you sell them something, let's say from your restaurant as well? And that's where kind of cherry on the top, the more things that you can offer them to do inside your store. Since we owned our thing fully, like including the land as well, so we added some small pieces to it. It was already pretty good shape. So the restaurant piece was there. It's a fast food restaurant. And then we realized that like there was a huge demand for like especially this summer we launched few programs related to like ice cream. So there's a, let's say I'll give you an example. So I saw this pretty unique mini ice cream thing. It was a vending machine in one of the own routes on 401. And then I took the number of the company, I emailed them, and now they are installing the same machine, not the vending machines setup, but just like open ice cream setup. And it has some like very creative marketing, how they were approaching just specifically for the kids. So we are bringing those things into the store. So like just so in the past 5-6 months we have made some small changes as I'm getting to learn the business a little bit more. Is like, hey, like this is where we were in terms of our sales in stores, and in restaurant, how can we take it to the rest level? For restaurant, hey, let's invest more in the online marketing, let's improve the, like let's do some SEO and stuff like that. So that's pretty simple. In there we do keep making some changes, but then restaurant is not something like I'm very much involved in. At the same time, our goal is to like, hey, we run it to its absolute best and then just keep investing back into the marketing of it, so we kind of bring in more revenue through that. Plus our margins are pretty good in that restaurant because we own it outright, it's not a franchise. So that's restaurant. And then the store piece we have focused is we are bringing in a branded store. Before this it was like just a convenience store, and it had everything that they, like the previous owner, figured out himself. Now we got in a brand new on the run company, so they are renovating the entire store, bringing in new material. Our margins have improved as well because our cost went down because of their buying agreement went down by almost 15 to 17% pretty much across all the products, and prices kind of stayed the same. Thinking of reducing prices a little bit as well kind of gives us a competitive advantage. Same thing as we did in gas, we're trying to do for our store as well.
But there's got to be a disadvantage to working with on the run, I would assume, no?
So the only disadvantage is now there is certain rules that you have to play with it. So basically what I did with them is like, so on the run has said like, hey, you can only have this and this brands in your store because these are the brands like we carry. But if I already had an existing contract with certain vendors, then I get to keep them. So whatever I wanted to do is before the on the run date hits, which is in this 26th of July. So anything that I have previously before any vendors that I wanted to keep, I get to keep all of them as long as they are in the store before 26th of July. So that was like, now I just went around and figured out what few things that we really wanted to keep and working well. We kept all of them, but we just had to had a contract which lasted for next few years. So on the run just can't cancel the contract which were existing in place.
Sure.
So we did that. Plus I realized that I think there were some surveys that were done in that specific area regarding the branded store. So there is the convenience store which does the highest amount of sales in Canada is the Circle K, which is a big brand. It's owned by a corporation, so it's hard to compete with anyone with that, but their prices are very competitive. And then their product range is very wide, and then they have some unique products that they only a Circle K will carry around. So just having a branded store does give you a huge advantage. And then I've seen it like the Circle K in the same city does twice the volume or even more than I do on a daily basis from my store. It's just a brand connectivity is high, very high in those areas, in that particular city. I'm pretty sure it must be everywhere else. You won't even see, like, you won't realize it like in bigger cities. I've seen it like, let's say if you go in here in Vaughan, like people don't really go and buy a lot of stuff from convenience rather than just drinks. But in smaller cities, that's just not the case. They do buy a lot more things than just like a lottery ticket and drinks in there. So
cigarettes,
huge piece of it, yeah. And then so that's where we kind of realized of like, okay, we do need some brand help. And then it was a pretty good deal as well. So we had they gave us 100,000 in the beginning to get them or like to take their brand name, and then I had to spend in order to get them in just from renovations and get some other stuff in there around. So I get to keep like roughly I would say 50% of this money as kind of being in the deal for
50% of the 100,000
100,000
money that they paid you to put their brand.
to put their brand. Plus,
Yeah.
I had to do, there was some kind of like I had to get their new aisles and stuff like that. Now they told me like, hey, these are the vendors you could go with, but then I went out of my way to like go with different kind of, they're like, as long as the product is same, we don't care where you get it, and then if you can get a pricing, then I get to, because it's a lump sum deal. It's not like I have to do certain basic stuff. Let's say we had to paint the store, and then there's certain logos that goes in there. So we got all those things done from our own guys, because I knew a lot of people in painting business.
Yeah.
So they did all that for a pretty cheap price compared to what they were quoting it to be. And then same thing, we had to order some new coolers, and then there were some outside signboards, and then there was the new aisles that we had to bring in.
Yeah.
But there was a company in Chicago where we negotiated the price with, and then it pretty much gave us what like at a 60% of cost what Canadian vendors were giving us at that time, even after.
How long is your contract with On the Run?
It's for I think 10 years or so, but there are terms and conditions where you can renegotiate it after 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was telling you before we started recording that my whole family's in the gas station business, right? All my uncles, my dad was before, he's no longer in it. But so they had Esso stations and they were retailers there. But
mine is Esso as well. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah. So Esso used to be with On the Run.
Correct.
All the gas stations were with On the Run. Then they switched to Circle K.
Correct.
But anyway, the point that I'm trying to get at is one of the main issues that they had when running is employees stealing, and they would generally steal cigarettes. So I think the way they would do it is they would, like, somebody would ask for a pack of cigarettes. They don't scan it on the system. They just give it to them, and if they're paying in cash, they take the cash and put it in their pocket. Yeah. So how do you, do you have those issues? How do you deal with that kind of thing?
So basically, the inventory count happens every day. So luckily, we don't have any of the issues. I retained most of my employees from the previous employer as well, because they had a good feedback. They've been working there for years, which is very rare in an industry like this. Plus, maybe it's just a small city thing. There is not a lot of crime in that city. I heard some horror stories about some of my friend who owns in Hamilton. They had same issues. Like, we hardly have even a drive off at our gas station.
Yeah. Drive off is when someone fills up and doesn't pay.
Correct.
Choosing the right mortgage product isn't always about the lowest interest rate. My name is Don Chen, mortgage agent with Pineapple Financial. And here are the two things you need to keep in mind. First, exit cost. Does your mortgage product incur a high penalty cost when you need to refinance or make any adjustments to your mortgage, or if you need to sell your property? Secondly, equity accessibility. If you need to access equity that has been built up, does your mortgage product allow you to do that freely and also in the most cost-effective manner? These two things will put the most amount of dollars in your pocket and help you get ready for your next real estate project. I would love to connect with you for all your mortgage-related questions. You can reach me at 647-961-3281, or you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Mortgage Dawn.
Yeah, and then so we had a police station right next to a gas station, the next building. So if they do have, we just give them a call. Sometimes they don't even let us file a complaint. We just give them the number, they'll call them. Yeah. The guy comes. So far, I think in my 6-7 months of running it, there has been only one case where, because we couldn't get the number plate before, other than that one case, there's nothing, we never had a runoff. Yeah. So, and then same thing with employees, where they had the previous owner, I think, the other gas station does the same, where but on the run, there's all the digital tracking is there. So they're implementing the system right now. But from let's say, I'll give you a specific cigarette example. So cigarette and lotteries. Because lotteries, we don't pay them until we sell them. But at the same time, once you activate them, if someone can take it, it's hard to track from that on. So we had a very specific count where person who starts the shift, they count how many cigarettes were there, and the previous one who ended their shift, they'll count theirs, and the person who comes in next, they can see it, because the ones before they end their shift, they have to do their count at the end of the shift, but then they drop that paperwork along with the cash that they have in the safe drop.
Yeah.
So the next person who comes in, they then start from they again count their inventory, and all the inventories have to match from the previous ones.
Sure.
And then all the employees were they were already trained, they have anything that goes missing is 100% responsibility of unless we can find something else in cameras. But it's like employees own it 100%, even if there is any wrong. Like if there is a runoff happens and we can get the number plate because of camera angles, that's fine. But if there is anything happens, someone comes inside the store and they didn't charge him, then it goes back onto the employees. But we just haven't had this problem, so can't speak a lot to it.
Sure. Well, it's good. Like it sounds like you're really running it like a business and not like, just like you're not really working in the business as a sort of a manager. You're working as a business owner, which is great. Just a funny story about drive offs now because you mentioned it earlier. One time, so my dad was at the station and somebody was about to drive off, so he ran outside and he like chased the car and he wanted to knock on the window, but when he did that, he actually shattered the guy's window with his fist. And I think the person was so scared that he just didn't move, and the cops came and everything and made him pay. But there's lots of
No, we haven't had any of that. It's just maybe city to city thing. I think big cities does have this problem a lot more. Yeah, and then drive off, like if you can if you can just get their number plate, I think police does a pretty good job to make them pay. Yeah. But if you can get that, then it's a huge loss because you don't make that kind of commission. Let's say if someone drive off with $200, like you can't recover $200 for the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's hard to do
because the commissions on gas are very small.
Very small. So like one drive off could technically ruin someone's day. I understand.
So the majority of the income from the store is probably from, well, obviously snacks, but I would say probably cigarettes and lotto, right?
Cigarette and lotteries are almost ours is rolls around 35 to 40%. I would like to keep it a little lower as well because margins on other things are way better. And plus maintaining the inventory, cigarette inventory is also pretty expensive as well. You really have to be on top of it in terms of, but now our pricings have improved a lot as well with the new company agreement. But I think that was one of the main thing when I was buying a gas station. I was really focused on percentage of sales from lottery and cigarettes. It can be the 50% of your revenue coming from the store, because then there is just no margins in there. And those are heavily regulated as well. So
exactly. Okay, so that's the gas station thing. That's really cool. You're the first person that comes on and talks about a gas station. Now, what's next for you? We were talking a bit about Cleveland, US market.
So since other than my gas station, I've been working as a realtor in Kitchener as well for a while. Not for a while, 7-8 months now, but doing very good in that pace. And that's where it kind of introduced me to some people who were investing in Cleveland. So I reached out to them, figured out how they do it, and then they shared their contacts with the realtor center. So we went in there, saw some properties, and then now we are closing in on our first single family property in Cleveland, and then the goal is to get at least 4 more by end of this year in Cleveland. So kind of we understand the full process, and then maybe figure out a way. That's just a stepping stone into what we are trying to do. And then after that, since my sister lives in US as well, they are also into buying a lot of real estate in where they live, which is Indianapolis. So, and then next year eventually we'll look into buying like a running business in US. It could be anything. We are open to, and since I said I'm not an operator, so I'm open to all kinds of businesses as long as it makes sense for us to own them. And then so that's the plan.
What's your motivation to do this? You came from another country, from India. You get over here, you start owning real estate, owning gas stations, then you want to go to the US. What's the reason you're doing all this, and your motivation?
It's just not, there's not initially I used to think I just love money, it was good, but then I had enough of it to have a good standard of living. And then there is just not there's no single specific thing that kind of drives me. I just love doing this. And it's just I'll keep doing it for a long time as I can see it. And then there's just no one thing that really tells me to do this. I want it's good to say you want to do it for your family, but my family does pretty good even without all this as well. Do
you have are you married?
I got married last year. So my wife also works for in a corporate job, makes pretty good money. So she's very happy with what she does. My parents are here now. They're flying back to India on Friday for a few months, and then probably going to come back. So my family is family is good. There's nothing kind of really need to do all this for stuff, but it's just I just love it. I just don't know. I'm really good at it, And then if you find something that you're really good at and you have fun doing it and make money out of it, so I think there's just no other motivation required.
Yeah, so it's just like exciting. It's fun for you
It's just a game.
Yeah, it's just a game.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't say that. Was there at some point where you were really motivated because maybe you didn't have as much money or anything like that, or that wasn't the case for you?
I think in the beginning when I first came to Canada, I was very on point about, hey, I'm gonna be very successful here. I don't know how, but I'm gonna have my own businesses. And then the college pro thing happened. After that, the real estate happened, and then Amazon, I was working at a very well paying work, and I kept getting promoted at everything. So then I kind of realized once I started tasting success at very early on after coming to Canada within few months. And then once you taste it once, you just want more of it. And that's where kind of it drives me. I'm like, okay, this is fun. This is good. You can do this. Not every time it pays off, but as long as you take it, there's certain amount of calculation involves on it. You will be, you'll end up on a pretty good side on the other end of it as well. So that's kind of what drives me. Initially, I was just to be successful. I wanted that tag. Now, obviously, that tag comes with good amount of money as well. But initially, I was really after that. Okay, I'm successful here.
Yeah.
And that's what I was my chase. Yeah,
that's cool. Let's talk a little bit about Cleveland. So, what numbers are you looking at here? You said you want to buy 5 this year?
Yeah, the goal is to buy at least 5 single families, and then next year we entered into the multifamily sector of it. So in Cleveland, I'll give you number of the first property that we are getting. So few factors. One is since I left my Amazon, there's no more mortgage for me in Canada unless I do multifamily. Yeah, and plus multifamily numbers just doesn't make sense in today's market. We have looked at a lot of them, but didn't work out. So in Cleveland, one is the legislation is super friendly towards landlord, which is most of the red states in US is. And then the second part is just the overall number kind of still makes sense. Plus we are entering at a very small level to begin with right now. The goal is to learn from this process, the first property. It's just not to take it as if hey, this is like a one deal that's going to make us a lot, but this is just a stepping stone about figuring out the mortgage process, building some credit, have some relations with the lenders, and then kind of figuring out all those parts. And then I think just the overall process of it is pretty straightforward. Didn't had any issue with from start to finish from this process. And then overall finding the property, it took the realtor just sends it, and we just see pictures of it, and then it just we wanted it to be completely offhand. We visited it once, and that's pretty much it. Now I want to visit it again, and then because I want to play okay, if I want to scale this business in US, let's say buying property or renovating them and then keeping them. Refi and then keep them. It's just it has to not involve any piece of me being there or me visiting those properties. If I can figure out that piece, then it's just scale is imminent. I can scale it to a high level, and that's what we are trying to do. We ran into some issues because of that, not visiting. We had out of the entire process of buying the property there, the biggest hurdle so far we have faced is opening up a bank account. Lending was easier than the opening up a bank account.
Yeah. Okay.
So it took us a while. We got rejected from 7 banks before we got into eventually opening up an account.
Yeah. Because you're not a resident?
Because I'm not a resident.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I've heard about that. And some people have posted about this. And I think they were able to do it by opening an account here.
Yeah.
Something that's specific
we wanted to do
US.
that. Yeah. But our timeline, you can do it in TD like that. So you can, but then there's no TD available unless you go to New York all the way.
Yeah.
And then we didn't want to try that because we had my work schedule didn't allow me to just go around do that. I have a business partner for the the US investment. So same thing with her, she's a realtor as well. So none of our time really allows us to drive.
You're saying to go to New York to a TD branch there?
Yeah, I didn't make sense for us to do it. So we started looking into some of the local regional banks, and then we thought hey, regional bank in New York, we can just drive to Buffalo and then come back quickly for 2 hours. That's what we did, and then it ended up approving our documents.
There's no TD in Buffalo?
There's no TD in Buffalo.
Really?
The closest one is in New York, or you go all the way to, I think there's few states have it. Just Florida has a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So if you are if someone is there, if you go to Florida, just open up a bank account.
TD.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you just kind of share some of the numbers on
Yeah,
this?
for
Purchase
sure.
price.
So purchase price for the first property that we looked at, it was a property which is in bad shape. Tenant was already in there, but property was in like terrible shape. So we got it for 103,
Mm-hmm.
103, and then so there's a rehab cost of 18,000 on this property, which is again funded by the lender. And then ARV after that came out to be around 150K.
Mm-hmm.
So we are putting in a down payment of we're going in with the 35% on our first one, and then yeah, that's pretty much. Then the rent we're gonna get from it is gonna be $1,350 to $1,400. That's average rent for a property like this there per month.
Cool. Okay, so you're getting the lender to fund the
Rehab
renovations
costs,
as
yeah.
well.
We're putting the down payment for the initial amount.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's interesting that they do that there.
they do that.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I was surprised as well.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much going to be in it for let's say 125,000 with
Correct.
closing costs,
Yeah,
roughly lawyer fees, that kind of thing, and you're going to have an ARV of 150. So are you going to refi it after?
Yeah, we're gonna.
And you're going to get what 80% loan to value?
Yeah, 80 to 75. It's gonna be somewhere between that, and then and the same lender is gonna do everything. So yeah, that's where I really liked about it. Like when I see the lender's terms and condition and how easy it is to go through the entire process of getting approved for the lending, and they are very like they okay, they already did a lot of screening for us of the area and everything. Same thing with the ARV. I think the initial value when the appraisal came out to be a little less than 100,000, but then the ARV came out to be a lot higher than what we were hoping it to be. So that's how I'm like, okay, it's initially we might have to just put extra money, but then we'll just get it back.
Yeah.
Rather.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of makes sense. So we got the tenants already out of the property, and then they're gonna start 6 weeks for renos maximum time, and then we just rent it out from there.
And is this going to be like an equity play or cash flow play? What's the idea?
Oh, this is just equity. First is just hit and trial method. Like you don't really expect it to do, but I think it's just gonna do good. It's in a very good area. Property was in just bad shape, but the overall area is pretty good in that the area. So we're just gonna hold it. We're not gonna sell it. Hold it. Cash flow is gonna be a few $100 on it, and then from there on, this is just ground piece of launching this on a bigger scale next time. Like we just kind of learn our lessons from it, and then once we go through the entire refi process, kind of get all our ducks in aligned for the next one, and that way for the next property we can just do it all 3-4 property at once instead of just going in on
Sure.
one. Yeah.
And this lender, is this one of the main ones? Like,
No,
is
it's
it would this kind of the equivalent of an A lender or?
No, it's just I don't really know what they really call it, but I'm sure it's not one of the banks. It's just like BC, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, the lender. Those.
Yeah. There's way more lenders in the
Yeah,
States,
it's
right?
just
A lot.
they're just way too many. Like I remember one of the banks when we finally opened up our bank account, even those banks said like, "Hey, we can help you with lending process." I'm like, "No, we're not gonna go to bank." I'm like, I'm tired of Canadian ones.
Are you working with a broker for?
Yeah, we were
lending?
working with a broker. Yeah.
How did you connect to these people through your
So there was-
colleagues and?
Yeah, no, there was a guy from Israel who buys a lot in Cleveland. So someone introduced him to us, and then he just WhatsApp all these numbers to us. We just call these people and then kind of figured out everything from there. But
Cool.
he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a bunch of them. There's a few Russians who invest in that area. There's Israel. There's a guy like that guy owns a lot of properties in that area. So
Got it.
I never visited it.
Yeah. That's cool. If you don't mind, can we break down the gas station numbers as
Yeah,
well?
for sure.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us like the purchase price?
So
And are you doing the same thing a burr with it or not
so,
exactly?
Like because it's just not exact. It was in a pretty good shape to begin with, so it's not gonna be exact burst strategy. I don't know how we're gonna name it, but yeah, the goal is eventually to increase the revenue, which increases the valuation of it, and then once the market condition approves, which we are trending towards, let's say hopefully by end of next year, if things stays in balance, then we might just like move out of the business of this one. Yeah,
Okay.
just sell it probably.
Yeah. So let's talk about the numbers a bit.
Yeah. So we got it for 3.6 million with 35% down payment. And then the loan was from RBC, which wasn't easy, but it was nonetheless it went through. We had like a 2 months delay because of RBC's terms and condition at the very end. They just couldn't figure out like what was happening in the end. It was just a big transaction for them as well. So That that was there, and then I'll share the current numbers that we are doing on the gas station right now. So we got it at I think 11% cap rate at that time. By the time we closed on it, the cap rate was always approaching 12%, which kind of helped with the high inflation numbers and high interest rate. So now we are doing on an average 14,000 in gas. On Thursday and Friday, we usually touch 18, 19 some days.
You're talking about per day.
Per day.
14,000.
All the numbers are per day.
14,000
liters.
Liters.
Correct.
Okay.
14,000 liters on an averaging out right now for the week. And then we have our inside sales somewhere rolling around 2,500 to 2,700 per day for the store. And restaurant numbers are around 11 to 1,200 per day.
Wow. Yeah. So what would be the NOI on this roughly?
So you're looking at on gas station, every liter that we send, we make around with the cross lease around 6.5 cents per liter. And then for the store, I would say just take a rough 25% margin for store sales. And then for the restaurant, since we own it outright, our inventory cost is pretty low, and just the labor cost is mostly involved, so I would go around 40%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these numbers have increased since you've taken.
Yeah, these are the current numbers. When we got it, numbers were a little different. They were a little on the lower side. So the gas was because we just made a turnover with the company with the lowest gas prices deal at that time. So this has been gradually going up. So I didn't do anything much in it. It's just like I stick with the deal. So at that time when we got it, I think numbers were around roughly 9 to 10K.
Okay.
They have gone up.
Liters per day.
Per liter per day.
Yeah.
And then restaurants were mostly same. They were like maybe $100 difference per day, more or less. I didn't put a lot of effort into a restaurant, which I should have, but it's just like timing. It takes a lot of time. Restaurant is a freaking complicated business.
Yeah.
But the store numbers went up as well. Just introduction of new stuff that we put in there, and kind of really helped us through it. So like there were small things, like they didn't have any. Before that, they weren't selling any gift cards in the gas station. So like it was just obvious thing. I'm like, I'm just going to get it in there. It doesn't really have the high margins, but it does like you can sell a few hundred.
Is there any margin on gift cards?
Yeah, I don't really, like if you take out the credit card fee, I don't think there is any.
Yeah.
Really take out. If someone pays with the, let's say, cash or debit card, then there might be some margin. But if
on what, like Amazon gift cards, that kind of
like
thing?
yeah, like
They
Amazon,
actually pay you to sell those?
you get I think, let's say if you get $100, you get $3. But if someone pays with credit card, you have to pay almost 2% fee. So it kind of doesn't make any money on them, but it does. Like it just it increases your revenue as such, but it's just like a good product to have because people really look up to them, especially like
brings people in.
Yeah, it just bring anything that brings into it. It's just a high end sale, doesn't really do it, but at the same time, we don't really have to do any effort in maintaining it. We only pay for it when we sell it. And unless it's just sitting there, like it doesn't really, and they came in, just set it up everything, and we don't really have to, like we just have to give them a little corner in the store. Yeah. So, but other high margins, like, obviously drinks are good. Ice cream, we had ice cream. We have like different, like 4 or 5 different types of ice cream. We really focused on that part. Summer, that's a huge hit. We had a good lineup of, there's a nearby school. So, so in the afternoon, we usually sometimes double our staff just to take care of that piece. Yeah. For the ice cream, we give it. We not only have it in a packaged, but we have it open as well, where we kind of do it in a cone. So that part is also done. So just like just the easy stuff, high margins. That's what we really focused and doubled down on. And then I had created a online. I'm working on creating the online. So we had a restaurant obviously on online portal. We want to bring our store to the online as well, so we can do some online grocery shipping in there. So DoorDash can deliver the same thing for you. They gives you that option, so kind of makes it a little just extra things that we can do in there. And then other than that piece, I think there's I wanted to get I was really hoping to do car wash, but that's not possible. There was a car wash right in front of it. It's a big one, so we can't do the car wash. And then there was like, okay, can we do the U-Haul, but it takes too much parking space. and it's just margins are not there, and plus our parking is already full because of the gas and everything. So, and then plus we had a restaurant as well, so we do need some amount of parking space. Even there we can't really take all of it. So just trying to figure out like, hey, what can I introduce in the existing space which can help us, improve the margins or increase the revenue of the store. And since we own it outright, so we had the freedom to experiment whosoever we want until we go on the run. So
Okay, yeah. There's so much, like, obviously owning a gas station is completely different from owning homes, right?
Oh, yeah, it's very different. Yep.
Very different, but it's cool that I like your perspective on things and how you're just thinking, how do I add revenue here? What can I do? Who can I talk to? What products can I bring in? So it's a really good mindset to have with this kind of stuff. So you've got a lot going on between the gas station, Cleveland, and some of the other, your real estate business and all that. I appreciate you sharing. Do you feel like there's any final thoughts that you wanted to share with the listeners?
No, I think just it's just like a lot of people does reach out to me and they ask me about like, hey, like how do I get started? And then I just I tell them like I've never really asked that question when I was starting out. I just had a goal that, hey, I want to just do something other than being in a regular day-to-day work. And then I just went in there. If I see someone doing something good, I'll just go and ask them. If you ask 10 people, probably 2 people will respond to you. And it's not like the other 8 people doesn't want to tell you or share their, they just don't have time to do it. And that's just my goal as well. Like I would just message anything I need information. I'll reach out to 10 people, and then if just one of them get back to me, that kind of does the work for me. Now I have access to obviously a lot more sophisticated contact that I can get information quickly. But in the beginning, when I was starting out, it's just like I didn't know what I really wanted to do. Same thing with real estate. When we started, I had no knowledge of the market percentage increases every year. I just wanted to buy real estate. I just wanted to own few of them. I had no plans to live in them because I was living in a different city. I was still renting it out until beyond few of the property. I've never lived in my property until I started living in my primary house, which is right now, a year back. Until then, I owned few of them, sold them, but never lived in any of my own property. Never even slept. I think I slept for a day or so in like in my own property. But it's just like the obsession was just to own, and then like figure out the rest of the things, and then just all fell in right place at the right time. Right now, even the market is tough. Most of our investments are still cash flowing. Because like eventually, like I didn't know it at that time, but our fundamentals were pretty good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Awesome. So just to finish things off, how do people reach you, and what services are you offering?
So right now, obviously, I'm a full-time realtor in Kitchener-Waterloo area. I serve a lot London as well. We have a lot of investor clients who buy there because you can still cash flow in London if you do short-term rentals or student rental, which what we mostly specialize in. And then easiest way to reach out to me is on Instagram. It's my name, Mohit Kanyan. You can find me there easily, and that's where I kind of do most of my content creation as well.
Awesome. Mohit, thank you for coming by today, and I appreciate hearing your story, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Well Off Podcast. If you enjoy the show, then I'd really appreciate if you left us a review on iTunes and let us know your thoughts. In order for us to get a larger audience, it's really important to have reviews, so your support is extremely appreciated. And also, don't forget to share the podcast with your friends and family. Until next time, I'm George Almasri. Have a great day.